All right. What's going on, Nina and Addie? Thank you so much for joining me here on Vonvo.com. And we're definitely going to just go right into our discussion about the current crisis going on here in Israel. So thanks for joining me. Nina, you want to start? How about you tell us where you're currently located in Israel and what's going on, and then followed by Addie.
Okay. So right now I'm on a kibbutz next to Rehovot. I'm about 10 minutes outside of Rehovot and about 45 minutes outside of Tel Aviv.
Okay. And Addie, where are you speaking from?
I'm speaking from my parents' house in Ra'anana. That's 15 minutes northern of Tel Aviv. I came here a week ago because I live in Beersheba. I'm a student in the university there. And we had to pretty quickly, so I'm right here.
Got it. And now, Nina, what in terms of missiles and sirens going off? What exactly is going on by you? Is that a constant thing right now, currently over the past few days?
Uh, Over the past few days, I've heard a couple of distant sounds of Iron Dome and rockets being fired, and I've heard echoes of sirens, but in my location, we haven't had a siren go off yet. Uh, so we're just continuing with our daily lives here, but for the last probably about an hour and a half, I heard rockets been getting fired off.
Got it. Okay. How about by you, Addie? Sirens, rockets. When you were in Beersheba, what was going on over there?
Where I am now, there's not really any rockets. That's why I came here. But sometimes you hear echoes from sirens in Tel Aviv, and a few days, like yesterday and the day before, I was with my brother in the hospital, and we heard sirens there because the hospital was in Tel Aviv. That's it. In Beersheba usually is where I get to hear more sirens and more rockets and deceptions.
Yeah, and so I when I was watching the news just before, I actually heard that Beersheba, I think recently in the past few hours got rocked with some missiles. Is that what you guys are hearing as well over in that city? Because that's a pretty big city, correct?
Yeah, it's a huge city. It's the biggest city in southern Israel. That's pretty much what we're hearing here as well. Sadly, I heard that it fell pretty close to where I live. I'm still hoping that that when I get back to Beersheba, my apartment will be there.
Yep,
It's sad, but true.
that's crazy. What about by you, Nina? I mean, has anything fallen near you guys, or for the most part, you're pretty safe over on the kibbutz that you're in?
For the most part, I'm safe. Uh, we're just, very lucky to be hit right now or just not being targeted. I'm about 40 kilometers away from the most northern part of Gaza. So uh, anything could really happen. It's just where you're located. Anything could happen.
Yeah, and so I mean, like Addie, just cause I mean, the fact that you're pretty sure some missiles landed near your home where you go to school. Like, what would be the feeling that you'd want to like express to people, knowing that like you're constantly under attack and that like it actually could have impacted your home, and for all you know, when you go back to your home in a few days, if you're able to, what's that feeling gonna, what's that feeling gonna be like?
It's hard. It's hard to explain the whole feeling around it because it's really, especially when you don't grow up in that situation, you just like suddenly get used to it. I don't know. It's weird. It's like you care, but you're indifferent at the same like defense mechanism. I don't even know how to explain it, but even like there's been it's also a joke between the students that every time a semester begins in school, there's always like there's another round of rockets being fired out of Gaza every time a semester begins. So we always have like 2 weeks that missiles are being fired to Beersheba, and always school stops, and always I don't know the sirens get you when you're walking to school, when you're in school, and the whole bit is like it sort of becomes like I don't know. You have to laugh about it because if not, it just becomes too like I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. No, so basically,
Yeah.
and it's funny because in a conversation I had yesterday with an Israeli, uh, that's exactly what she had. She had a feeling of laughter when she was in Tel Aviv the other day, and you know, a rocket fell and the sirens went off, and like that was her first feeling, like laughter. So it's just like almost like you gotta laugh about it that it's happening because it's just such a constant occurrence, right? That there's really not much more that can be done if you just continue to be sad about it. It's just going to break you down. Is that how it works over there?
Yeah, because I don't know, it's a part of your life. You have to suck it up. Like you can't start, I don't know, being in shock every time a siren goes off. You have to, I don't know, do what you have to do. Run to a safe spot or whatever. You can't. I don't know. It's just you don't have time to be like hysterical about it. You have to be very focused and not just don't let it bother you too much because every time it happens, you have to just like shake it off and go to school. Like the other day, I was late for class, so I just like from walking to school, I was rocket like sorry, I got mixed up. A siren caught me when I was walking to school, and I just like had to run into this bomb shelter. And then I was late to class, and I had to go into class, and then took my laptop out and started writing. And it's like, okay, everything's normal again. Just go on.
So,
Um,
so like,
not it just interrupts your normal life.
yeah. And what's the feeling amongst Israelis? Maybe Nina, you want to start off like knowing that a normal life is almost impossible to live these days, and like what should the world know about how frustrating it is to live in a not normal life, where you're constantly just thinking you might be under attack, something could happen any moment. What's really like the consensus among Israelis, and what type of message would you want to broadcast to people so that they understand like what you have to go through?
Uh, well, for me, it's a different experience because I'm an immigrant of this country and I have just moved here 3 months ago.
Oh my god.
So this is very new to me. And I was in Tel Aviv the other day and I heard a siren and I did the same. Had to be very focused and coming from the States, this isn't something that's like happens every day. So I like went about what I was told to do if that situation were to happen. And then I got on my train back home, and it. I think the general feeling of Israelis here is that this is what the situation is, and this is what we live in, and we can't stop our lives because this is happening, and it it's unfortunate that we have to like live this way, but that it's the situation we're in.
So where did you move from in the U.S.? Where were you originally from?
I'm originally from the Bay Area,
Okay, very good.
California.
And so you just moved there 3 months ago. You've never have you been to Israel before the past 3 months
Yeah,
before that? You've been there, okay? So
yeah.
what
Uh,
goes through your head when you're first moving into a new country, and you've only been there for 3 months? Like you've got to be feeling like frazzled or nervous, scared, like at any point. Like I mean, right? You're not used to this.
um. Well, to be honest, this is something that I considered when I was moving here and decided to immigrate to Israel and become a citizen here. This is something that I considered. I'm also considering joining the army. So this was something that's been on my mind of what would happen if there's to be a situation here. And I think that for me, it's also part of my culture now. So I
Yeah.
also have to accept it. And it's a little bit hard to do when this isn't my normal life, and at home I'm safe and everything is good. But as part of immigrating here, you come like what comes with the good also comes with the bad. So
Yep.
I have to adjust myself to the situation and just understand that this is the lifestyle that I was chose to be in.
Yeah, and Addie, Addie, since you've lived in Israel your whole life, um, what should people know about your normal life, just constantly being thrown off and having to be worrying about this all the time? What can you tell people about that experience?
Um, First of all, I didn't live here my whole life. I was born in the States and I came here when I was about 5. So it's also a factor in the whole thing. But I think it's hard for me to say because I grew up living in Central Israel, which is usually Israelis call it the bubble, because Central Israel and Tel Aviv is where nothing hits and you don't usually feel. If there's war going on, you don't normally feel it in Tel Aviv. That's what's absurd about it, and that's what's also so interesting about this situation, because suddenly it's also Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv is also getting rockets for the first 20 years since the Gulf War. I know from my friends that grew up in the south or grew up in the north next to Kiryat Shmona that also gets missile then, and depends on which war or in which front also gets bombarded.
So, are you feeling a war?
I don't know. It's just it's part of our mentality, Israeli mentality, and the feeling that.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And do you are you feel?
I don't think you ever feel war unless you're in the army.
Okay. Gotcha. So right. Okay, makes sense. So how about in terms of?
I can't hear you, Max. I didn't hear your question.
Okay, so I was going to actually ask you. So right now, do you feel like war is upon you? And I mean, if you got called back to the reserves, is that when that moment would kind of hit you? Because obviously, I'm assuming friends of yours have been called back to the reserves, right?
In a second. I really can't hear you.
Do you hear me now?
Can you try and repeat that question?
Yeah, I was saying, do you feel like war is upon you right now? And do you feel like it's upon you because, let's say, your friends have been called back to the reserves?
Yeah, of course. Like it's a hard thing to say because I feel I'm scared for a lot of people that I know that are in the army and were called for reserve. And you like on one hand you want to get calm in the south and you want them to stop shooting. On the other hand, I don't want my friends to get in the Gaza Strip because I'm afraid for their lives. And we know Israel knows that every time there's they go with ground forces inside, then you lose lives, and it's scary. That's what scares me the most.
Yeah, no, totally. What would you both think? So Vonvo is like all about a place. My website is all about where individuals can come and like express their opinion. And we want to, allow people to get other perspectives and just simply what the news has to offer. What do you think about the publicity that Israel gets only as soon as when they decide to begin defending themselves? What's your take on how, let's say, CNN or BBC portrays what's going on there when it actually escalates, but yet they don't decide to talk about it when it's happening for months and years before.
Well, for me, I look at it as that it's really unfair that Israel is portrayed like as a offensive army that's attacking Gaza, that doesn't have a right to defend itself, and after the fact that people really, or like media really only looks at Israel for a very small portion of their newscast,
Yeah.
and that it's usually in a negative light, unfortunately, and that any new media network or like social media sites are really actually beneficial, and then they can be like also not so good. People are constantly updating Facebook with news from different stations, from different sources, and depending on what the sources is from, they can be completely biased or they can be just completely propaganda, and so it's a little like frustrating to see.
What about you, Addie? What's your take on that?
I have to say it's truly frustrating for an Israeli to be watching CNN and BBC. The other day when all this just started, I was looking around, in CNN's website and BBC's website and even Al Jazeera's website, and I seriously thought that what they had on Al Jazeera was better than CNN,
Really?
which is absurd. It's frustrating because I don't understand what reason they have for not being objective about what they're showing. It's also hard that you see every time they put like an IDF spokesman and they interview him on CNN or on BBC, he's talking, and whilst he's talking, there's like pictures of kids crying and kids in hospitals in Gaza, and like, wow, I just want to, they ask the most ignorant questions when they interview. They literally insult people with their opinions, and
yeah,
it's frustrating, really.
Yeah.
I wish I could like turn them off and shout out my own thing if I could.
Well, that's why you have Vonvo right now to really express that opinion, because that's really what we want to. I think ultimately it comes down to citizens being able to spread the word a little bit better than ultimately what they might hear on the news, right?
Definitely.
Okay. So in terms of a lot of what's going on in the news right now, is there's a lot of talk about a ceasefire. What do you think about that, Nina? And then I'd love to hear your take, Addie, because I think it's important to be discussed that that's kind of the negotiations going on right now.
Definitely. I truly hope that there's a ceasefire, just so that people really take the time to be able to just take a break from what's going on and like be able to get back to normal life, and that hopefully with a ceasefire comes like a more just more progression into like peace talks and something more than war.
Addie, can I please hear your opinion on that? Because why do I think that it might differ a little bit?
Just a second. Sorry. My opinion about that is kind of, I have an inner conflict about it because I think there's many things involved. Living here long enough, I know ceasefires aren't really ceasefire. I know that ceasefires, okay, so we won't be bombarded with 200 rockets each day, but in about a month they'll start shooting like 1 or 2 every day. Now and then they're going to shoot it until it just goes on again and starts heating up.
Yep.
On the other hand, it really scares me to think that they'll have a ground operation and put all those soldiers inside the Gaza Strip, which is horrible and will cost many lives.
Yep.
So it's hard because I'm sure that for people living down south their whole life, it's hard for them to hear about a ceasefire because they know that they want to stop them, and a ceasefire now wouldn't mean that we're gonna stop them totally.
Yeah, and that's kind of that's
and
what.
And there's also always that this whole heated up situation is kind of like overpowering, trying to push aside the whole Iran issue, the Syria issue, and that's what pretty much is hard about the whole thing. You want to say, okay, if you want to push it aside, then okay, ceasefire. Now it's back on the stage.
Yeah. No, totally. And I mean, I got a similar opinion to that yesterday from the Israeli I spoke to.
What's really hard about a ceasefire is that.
Go ahead, Nina.
Just even when the I want to say president of Egypt was here in Gaza for like 4 or 5 hours to do discussions. Like Israel and was asking for a ceasefire, and like Hamas like couldn't even bring that to the table for like 4 hours, and it just meant nothing. It was like just a word.
Yep.
So who's to say that anybody is going to keep an agreement with that?
Yeah.
But just gotta hope and wish that it stops.
Yep. Yeah. No. I mean, and I'd love to. I mean, it's almost like, especially Addie. I think it's just interesting because you live in Israel for so many years now. Just it's almost like you don't. Are you even able to answer what is the best move at this point for Israel to take? Ceasefire, no ceasefire, invasion, overall strategy. It's almost like you don't even know at this point what is the entire solution that should be implemented at this point. Is because it's almost like there's nothing there, right?
No. Yeah, it's I'm glad it's not my decision to make. It's a really tough decision. It's really hard to say what's the right thing to do because nothing pretty much makes sense. And it's also hard because you have a feeling sort of like, okay, just let them go in, stop it once and for all. The problem is, I think no one has that feeling besides Israelis. No one understands the exact feeling besides Israelis, and world opinion on our actions is very important. So it's hard to do those things.
Yep.
And it's funny. It's like, I don't know, feeling like you're like, I don't know, fighting with your baby brother that you can hurt him with so much power, but you don't want to do it because you're scared.
Yeah.
Sorry, that might have came off bad, but
no,
you probably understand what I mean.
I have a little brother. That's fine. I understand what you mean. Can you girls just wait 1 second? My computer's gonna die, so I just want to grab my charger.
Yeah, it's a tough decision. I have no idea. I have no idea what's right.
Yeah. Can you wait 1 second? I'm just going to grab my computer charger.
No problem.
1 second.
Sure.
Hey, I'm back. 1 second. Ugh. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, let's see. So let's move on then into we're both all three of us are kind of unsure what the solutions really are. Are either of you friends? I mean, Nina, you might not be able to answer just because you've only been there for 3 months, but are either of you friends with any Arabs, Palestinians, whether they live inside the Israeli borders or outside the Israeli borders? Nina, if you have a quick answer because you've only just moved there, you can answer first if you'd like.
Well, so I only have moved here for 3 months, but last year I lived here for 9 months on a program, and I volunteered at a school in Jerusalem. It's called the Hand in Hand School, and the school is meant for Israelis, Arabs, Palestinians, and of all religions. It's one big school.
Yep.
And so when I was there, I worked alongside Arabs, and I worked in the preschool actually. But I was able to meet some of the students that go there. The principal was Arab, and considered herself Palestinian, and it's an interesting. It was an interesting place to work at, and see the coexistence there.
So people were getting along fine there?
Yeah. They have their arguments, and we talked to some of the older students, the students in high school, and they have their arguments, and they have their opinions, but in the end, they still are friends because they ended up growing up with each other and learning how to argue about things.
Yep.
And make it so that their arguments don't hurt their friendships, or their opinions don't hurt their friendships, and that they're able to see past all the problems here. And it was very interesting too, because from both sides you have the Israelis who add into the army, and they have their friends who are Arabs, and who they know that someday they might have to face each other in a situation of war. So it's very interesting that happens for them.
But overall,
That's my experience.
Overall, watching that coexistence, there was no real, hardships that you saw during that time. It was two ethnicities living side by side with each other and going to school together.
Definitely.
That's crazy. What about you, Addie?
I haven't had the privilege to meet any Palestinians personally, having them close to me or whatever. I also think it's really important to make the difference between Palestinians and Israeli Arabs. There's tons of them in my university. Every time you go to Jerusalem, you're surrounded by Arabs and Palestinians. Anytime you go to natural springs around our beautiful country, you sometimes sit with Arabs and Palestinians. I never felt, any tension or anything about it. It's always normal. I'm used to it. Also where I live in central Israel, near us, there are many, many, many Arab villages.
Yep.
Also, no tension.
Got it. I think that's it's wild to hear all the stuff that we're talking about, and then know at the same time that there are plenty of people just living amongst one another, of either Arab or Jews, and they're living totally normal together, but yet it's when these rockets seem to be going off after a certain point in time, it's just then some action needs to be taken. So, do they ever tell you? Have you ever gotten any insight into why, let's say, like Hamas isn't representative of the Palestinians, let's say, that have no problem living amongst Jews? Like, what the hell? What's the cause of that? Like, where's that disconnect occurring? Do you have any idea?
I would just say it stems from ignorant hate on the
I didn't
terrorist
hear your
point of view.
question. I'm sorry, you were broken up. Can you ask it again?
Yeah, I was saying, you're saying that there are plenty of Arabs and Jews living amongst one another, on friendly terms throughout Israel. So the fact that Hamas is sending these rockets over into Israel, where is the disconnect that's happening between Hamas doing what they do and having a strong hatred towards Israel, and then others just not having any problem with it? Do you have any idea where that stems from?
Um, I think if you would really ask me what reason for that is, how come that happens, that like we get along just fine on a daily basis, and then I don't know, suddenly Gaza Strip heats up. I think it's because the conflict itself isn't between normal citizens and like normal citizens and normal citizens in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. I think the problem is the conflict lies in extremists and fundamentalists,
Yep.
especially from the Palestinian side. I think if you would ask me who has the biggest issue with us being here, that's what drives them nuts. It's the fundamentalists, not people who just, go to Ramallah University and live a this life. I'm so
Yep.
life, pretty much.
Okay, and Addie, I mean, I just want to let you know it's just after 30 minutes we've been speaking. Do you want to go for a little bit longer? Is that cool?
I'll stay here for 10 more minutes.
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much. So then why don't we just talk about a few other questions here. Um, so what would you say the view is that you have of Hamas, Addie? I mean, do you just have a complete hatred towards Hamas? And can we talk about maybe what Israelis are looking for? And I mean, I get the impression that you guys only want peace. So what would it take to get peace in your eyes and inside your country?
That's a tough question. But I think I wouldn't say I can't. I think hate is such a strong and powerful word that I can never say I hate Hamas. I don't hate them. I don't know, angry. I don't understand their actions. I don't see logic in what they do. I don't understand how people in the 21st century can still have the same opinions that they do.
Yep. I totally agree. I think that's
on the other hand,
with that last point.
As a person that tries to call himself an intellectual in some way or another, I even try to understand where the hatred comes. Why do they hate us so much? What is what's the issue with us being here? And some of the things I can understand, but I will never understand the violence. I'll never understand the pure hatred that they have for us. I'll never understand the fact that they're just not willing to have us here. The problem here is they're not willing to hear about, the two-state solution. They're not willing to hear about anything. They want to push the Jews to the sea and get rid of us and be here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'll never understand.
Yep. Well said. Nina, do you have like a hatred towards Hamas at this point? And what do you think it's going to take to what would you need to see in exchange to have peace?
I agree with Eddie. I think hatred is a very strong word. But
Are you asking me?
Hamas is a terrorist organization, and their ideals and the ideologies that they represent is completely skewed and corrupted and evil. And I just like a D, I don't understand why they hate us. I don't understand what their reasoning is behind it, and I don't think there will ever be an answer for it. Unfortunately, who's to say why people do what they do, and who's to say why people commit acts of terror and violence? It's truly just it's very sad.
Yeah.
I think as far as what I can expect or hope for with peace is something that I've learned throughout my entire life is that to have compromise means to have sacrifice, and if you're not willing to both sides and have extremists that aren't willing to sacrifice things to make a compromise, and to me it's compromise means you're not going to be 100% happy with the outcome. You're going to be satisfied with it, and I think that a satisfaction should be that whatever the outcome may be, we're going to be with people and less victims of terror and attacks and death.
Yeah, that's also well said. I think this is a good question to ask both of you. Addie, what's your take on how the U.S. is acting right now? Like we just sent over Hillary Clinton, who you may know is like our Secretary of State. Are you surprised by Obama's pro-Israel position? And then Nina, obviously as an American, I want to hear your take on that as well.
Surprised? Not at all. I think the reason, I think it has nothing to do with the conflict itself. I think it's purely because in his first 4 years, somehow like Israel, you got the feeling that pro-Israeli as other Republicans were before him. We got the feeling that maybe really not as much on our side. So maybe he started kind of being scared about the Jewish voice and the Jewish vote. And for me, it's pretty obvious. Like I'm not surprised at all.
And you're in favor of what our position's been so far, what the dialogue's been so far out of the U.S.
I can't hear you at all.
I just said so. So you're satisfied with what our position is so far. Nina, what's your take on Obama and our position as of right now, and what you think maybe we should be doing going forward as the U.S.
As far as the U.S. goes, I am not surprised that Obama's he's only come out and said that he supports Israel in our right to defend ourselves, and recognizes the tragedies that's happening here. I think that I feel like a little bit more could be done as a preventative measure. Does that make sense? But this year being an election year, maybe they had more things to focus on, like who's going to win. But I think the Jewish voice is. I think it's really important that we have Obama, supporting us and understanding our situation here. And as an American, assimilating into Israeli culture, it feels very important to me that I am being supported by my past country, and that you know, it understands that I'm going to be an Israeli citizen, but I'm always an American citizen as well.
Yep.
So I think that it's just as important, because there's so many American immigrants to Israel, and I think it's really important that America recognizes the fact that, like, the Jewish voice is very, like, hushed if it doesn't have support.
Okay, perfect. So I guess the last question I'll leave with both of you to answer would be like, what is the message that you definitely want people who watch this video to know about Israelis, what they want, the country, and how you would like to see what you're really what message you want to convey to people about how this might all end and what they should know about the country. Maybe Adi, you could start. Nina, do you want to take that question then? I don't know, maybe Adi just froze a little bit. Oh, okay.
I think the most important thing I would like to say is, like, I have no idea how much delay there is in what I'm saying. I think the most important thing I would like to say about it is that I don't like the whole choose sides, who's right, who's wrong, and whatever. I just think people have to look at it as what each culture represents and what side represents. And I think, I don't know, looking at, I don't know, criticizing us for not negotiating with people that want us dead and who celebrate every time there are more and more casualties on our side, who they go parading in the streets with joy every time they hear Israelis are dying. I don't know. I think it's I would like people to look at it just the way it is and not think about, oh, the Israeli army is stronger than Palestinian poor, and it's obviously good versus bad or strong versus weak. It's just the views of each side are so different, and I would like people to really start to get interested in that and look into that and understand where logic is lying and where it's not.
Perfect. How about you, Nina? What should people that watch this know about Israel and their stance and what they want?
I think people should just realize that this isn't easy for either party. This isn't easy for any citizen of Israel, for any citizen of Gaza, for Arabs, for Muslims, for Jews, for Israelis. This is not. It's not anything that anybody wants to be going through. It's what we are going through, and I think it's important for people to be aware of their, what media sources they're receiving their information from. It's really important that what you're reading is truthful, and it's if you have to read both sides of the situation, read articles from the Israeli point of view, from the Israeli Palestinian point of view. If you want to know what's really going on, you have to look at the situation from both sides, and it's really gonna you're never really gonna understand what's gonna happen unless you're in it.
Yep.
But to get a close understanding of it, you have to look at both sides, and it's it's gonna be. Like, you can't just choose sides. This is not, to me, this isn't something that's easily simplified. It's a really complicated situation. it's not just about territory, it's not just about religion, and it's not just about terror. It's about people's lives and all of that mixed in together. So,
Got it.
you can't oversimplify the situation and say that this is easily like solved.
Yeah.
And that,
And you
make sure
both
you're really understanding.
you both as a consensus amongst your friends and stuff, you think though Israel ultimately is all about peace though right now. That's all they want. They're tired of everything that goes on. They want Is that a consensus answer, you think? A yes?
Definitely.
Both of you, yeah? Okay. Great. So thank you so much for both of you helping me out here and coming on to Vonvo.com to share your opinion. And we'll definitely be in touch, and we can get back on in a few days if you want for any updates over there and anything that's going on, okay? And I'll definitely be sure to get this out to the right people.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks so much, girls.
All right.
All right.
No problem.